Deathstroke, the terrorizer of DC some call him. He is someone you do not want to make mad, and unfortunately for Hive, they did exactly that when they kidnapped Slade Wilson's son. So let's talk about it. The movie starts and we see Slade on the phone with his wife, and she's pressing Slade about the time he cheated on her. But fortunately for Slade, his son comes in clutch, begging to speak to him, and then Slade reads him a bedtime story. But I'm not gonna lie, Slade read like 4 lines and called it a day. Even Lil Mans was confused. He hangs up the phone and Slade's whole demeanor changes. Slade goes to open a suitcase, and I guess it's time to clock in for work. And we see Slade about to pull up on this military operation. We see this guy in a sniper tower. Bro, how far did he throw that knife from? Man just hit a Black Ops 2 trick shot like it was nothing. And this would have been a 10 out of 10, but as the guy was falling, he triggered the alarm, and now every soldier on base is locked in. You see the guy Deathstroke just killed, and Slade is standing over him. How did this man Deathstroke get there so fast? It was literally just across the entire map. But we can't worry about that right now, because Slade starts charging in for the fade. The enemies start busting, and they aren't hitting anything. These are my teammates whenever I'm about to rank up, but Slade is a nice person, and he shows them how it's done. And he goes 3 for 3, then proceeds to kick this tower guy through a wall, and Slade is standing over man, trying to ore farm, but he ends up getting shot twice in the chest, but he eats those, and then he returns the favor. Slade then jumps off the tower, Mario stomping on this poor guy, and as if that wasn't enough, Slade busts a cap in him, and now it's a speed run. Slade shoots the first guy, uttering ring rolls to the second, hitting the slam and shoot combo. I didn't see you, and then Slade throws a bomb, taking out the rest of the enemies, and that is mission complete. We see Slade's wife kissing her son goodnight, and when she leaves the room, he gets grabbed by her throat and thrown into a wall, and I refuse to believe her son didn't hear this. The mother then asks, "What do you want?" And he says, "Your son." And you remember when I said Slade's mission was complete? Well, apparently it's not over yet, because we see 2 goons searching the building, and then bro, this man Slade is moving like he ate. You see the other guy? And he's scared for his life. Rightfully so. He starts busting. Slade sneaks up behind him, then stabs him through his back, lifting man's up and slices him into pieces. 3 more goons pull up, and they see Slade standing there menacingly, and they make the wise decision to run away. For the first time, we actually get realistic enemies. Slade lets them live and goes to carry on with his mission. We go back to the wife, and she's fighting back and kicks man's over the railing. She jumps down and they get to boxing. She hits a 180 punch, but the guy catches it. But she used that to her advantage and proceeds to flip the guy over. She charges in, but the guy is officially locked in. He blocks her punch, hits her in the face, throws a your rage knee, turns his hand into a laser, and shocks her, knocking her down. But it's not over, because he then steps on her leg, breaking it, and then he covers her mouth and says, "Why are you so loud? Your kid's trying to sleep." And then he breaks her arm. Bro, that was just unnecessary. And then he starts telling her about Slade and what he does for a living. And then he finally reveals himself, and his name is the Jackal. And after revealing himself, he stomps her out. This is really feeling personal. Back to Slade, he kicks open his door, and he sees the boss guy aiming 2 dualies. He starts busting, but Slade is just weaving all the shots, and then he cuts his guns in half, and now the sword is to his throat. The general tells Slade that he won't get out of here alive, and Slade says, "Of course I will," and shows him the head of his president. Some more soldiers pull up, but the general says chill, and then we find out Slade was not here to kill him, but to give him a warning to do better at his job. Slade starts walking out, but before he leaves, Slade tells the general that he needs gas money, but the general is not going to pay that, so he signals his men to shoot, and then he would be delighted to pay that gas money. And now with the mission officially complete, Slade finally goes back home. And when he enters, he sees the house is in shambles. He runs into his son's room and sees his wife. And she tells Slade that the Jackal did this. And Slade says, "Who's the Jackal?"
"You know who he is!"
And then she starts pressing Slade on being a liar. And Slade says, "I don't know what you're talking about."
Stop!
His wife has had enough of the lies, and she asks Slade why. But Slade says, "I'll bring Joseph back." He tries to sympathize with her one last time, but she cuts him off. "Just bring Joseph back, and you better not fail." And Slade gets serious and says, "I never fail." You can call Slade a manipulator. You can call Slade a liar. But as soon as you bring up failing, that's where he draws the line. And I gotta respect it. And now we see Slade has pulled up to the enemy's location. And then he hears, "How's the wife, Wilson?" And this man Slade says,
"Show yourself."
And just by the way he said it, I just know he's gonna be locked in. Bodies will be caught. The Jackal comes out, and Slade immediately asks for his son, but the Jackal says that he's fine. He just needed him as a bargaining chip, and what they want from Slade is for him to join Hive. Wait, they? And then we see 2 goons come from the shadows, but Slade's answer remains the same, and he says no. And Jackal says,
"Reconsider."
And then the goons start running up. Slade draws his sword, and now it's time to get to boxing. He blocks the woman's attack and follows up with an attack of his own, but he gets countered. And now Brock Lesnar pulls up, pinning Slade against the window. Brock Lesnar goes for the killing blow, but Slade Elden Ring rolls out the way. But the woman comes back in, and Slade has her on the defensive. That was until she hit this beautiful flip kick that pushes Slade back. Brock Lesnar then pulls back up, and these boys start running a 2v1. Alexa Grasso then hits a leg sweep, and Brock Lesnar comes in with a backhand, pushing Slade back. Alexa Grasso and Brock Lesnar then charge in, but as you can see, Slade locks in, stabbing Alexa through her chest and stabbing Brock Lesnar through his arm. And as soon as I seen Slade hit this move, I knew they were cooked. Jackal comes back out, and he says enough. Alexa reaches out her hand towards Jackal, and this man Slade Slade says, "Oh, you wanna go talk to your master?" And then he throws her to him. Dog, she was quite literally dead weight, and Slade just flung her with ease. Jacko sees this and starts glazing Slade. "See, this is exactly why I need you on my team. Alexa was extraordinary, but clearly not extraordinary enough. Brock Lesnar is considered a legend, and now look at him. Pathetic. I wouldn't even keep him as a slave in my imp. I ain't gonna lie, I would be disgusted if I risked my life for someone and they start glazing the man that offed me." Jacko then brings out Slade's son, and we see he is at knife point right now. Slade sees this, and he knows what he must do. He cuts off Brock Lesnar's arm and starts charging in, throwing a flashbang, and then stabs Jacko in the gut and tosses him aside. He runs to save his son, making one last leap of faith. Slade crashes through the glass, reaching his hand out, and then we see blood, and see the guy who's holding Slade's son is now deceased. And we see Slade is holding his son, but this isn't a happy ending, because we then see man's got his throat slit. Slade catches him tight and runs out the building, dropping a few bombs as a parting gift. But unfortunately for Slade, it seems like Brock Lesnar and the Jackal will survive this. But now the question is, will Slade's son survive? Will the Jackal spin the block? And would you like to see a part 2 on this? If so, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Peace.